Yeah, hello, Karen. Wonderful.
Mhm.
Thank you for taking the time to meet me here and together talk about what you might be talking about at the Integral European Conference in 2025. Very
Yeah, thanks
excited
for
about
meeting
that.
me, and it's a great way to develop a topic to
That's
just
right.
converse
Yeah,
about it.
I'm all for emergence, not too much premeditated ideas, but to actually see what comes up, what's most alive in you right now, and what you've been working on recently. But really, the ideal thing is, and that's happened in a few cases, that you come up on stage in May 2025, and then you speak from what's actually most alive in you right now. Building on what you've learned before, and obviously, you can't be all that spontaneous, but as much spontaneity as possible is really
Yeah,
is
yeah.
kind of the motto of IEC.
A wonderful challenge. So really, just to get the topic and not, yeah, because I'm
Yes,
as an academic, I'm used to like the PowerPoint and the
I
preparation and all
know.
that, and
Yeah,
it's
I
yeah.
mean, and I hope you do bring a PowerPoint because your graphics are so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and you've come, and this will be the first time that you're coming in person. I'm really looking forward to hugging you
Oh yeah,
after having been
yeah.
aware of your work and your lovely personality for several years. And you spoke before in IEC 2022, the hybrid one, but you were there via Zoom, and you had just published your book, You Matter More Than You Think, Quantum Social Change for a Thriving World, which was very exciting. So it was a lovely talk, and I really look forward to um, hearing what's come of that, what's developed
Yeah.
from there, because uh, somehow your work brings together, it doesn't fall in one category, but it brings together environmentalism and social change and how that links together from an integral view. So yeah, so I'm really excited about exploring with you how that could fit into this year's topic, finding wholeness for an integral age. Yeah. So
Yeah, and that's why I'm very excited about. I'm first excited to be there in person because I've wanted to be
yes,
there for so many years, and so I was
I
like,
know.
okay, now that I have the time, and thank you for the invitation.
Mm,
And I think the topic of finding wholeness or radical wholeness, as Ken Wilber's writing about,
mm,
is just so critical at this time because we just finished this the International Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, IPBES, has just we finished the transformative change assessment, which really was, looking at the literature on like, well, how do we transform at the rate and the scale and the speed and the depth that is called
mm,
for now, and recognizing the urgency of the and the necessity for transformative change, but how? And that's where I think like the integral approach is just is so critical, and to
mm,
recognize that it's not just about what we do, it's also how we do it, how we show up. And I think we communicated that in the assessment without having
mm,
like they like I think that many people weren't familiar with the integral framework.
mm,
So I trying to pull in people that are working with integral as contributing authors, and we have some CLAs who were familiar with it and things. But I think that
mm,
that the idea resonates, that yes, there's like that it's not just about the 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 systems and the behaviors and things like that, but that
mm, mm,
and that we refer to it as views, structures, and practices, all of these being very important. And
mm,
I think that now that it's done, for me, the question is like, okay, well, how do we scale transformative change? Because
mm.
it's the urgency, if we just see it every single day in the news, that we recognize
Yeah.
that this is, and I feel like I've been saying it's the decade that matters for decades now. And she's like, oh, we can do better, we can do better, and everything. And now we are in 2025. The 2030 agenda is 5 years away. We're so far off. We
Mm-hmm,
see that
mm-hmm,
where we're
mm-hmm,
going in politically is just like totally the wrong direction. And
mm.
and I'm enjoying reading Ken Wilber's book on finding radical wholeness. And I actually like skimmed through and went right to the very dark shadow chapter, because I'm like, okay, this is where we're at now. And so how do we do better? How do we actually, like collectively show up individually and collectively? And that brings me, to like the quantum social change, which is my attempt to really just go like, like of course we have indigenous traditions and wisdom traditions that are talking about this wholeness and oneness, but then science itself is telling us that reality is not what it seems, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's asking these different questions. It's talking about entanglement. It brings in, consciousness as something that, but science itself doesn't really know how to deal with this in a except from a very right-hand perspective. So for me, it's just like, what would quantum social change be if we take quantum social science and the findings and really like opening up that inquiry? And to me, I've been very busy with as the co-chair of the transformative change assessment. The last 3 years have been like very focused, but I started like just really going back to the what is quantum social change in theory and practice, and I started a Substack newsletter on
Ah.
that. And so I've been writing weekly just to like try to ask, to just reflect, okay, pushing myself to think further and to engage with it more deeply, because I do think that like that we actually have to work from a very different paradigm,
Mm-hmm.
and that science itself is needs to broaden and
Mm-hmm.
take in more of reality or multiple realities, or however, like whatever it may turn out to be, but just to ask different questions now. And the
Mm.
urgency of transformative change means that we, like that we actually have to like go from just like these thinking blocks into like the feeling part and the emotions,
Mm.
and then really getting into, like that deepest thing. And it means then, dealing with the shadows, dealing with the traumas, dealing with like all the stuff that we have collectively inherited that
Mm.
have, like that are keeping these patterns going. And so
Mm.
for me, like looking at like fractal approaches to scaling change, and how do we bring all this knowledge that we have and put it into practice for collective change, and how do we like mobilize and activate society so that people really do feel or recognize that they matter, and not,
Mm.
matter more than they think, just as this like, oh, I am significant and everything, but that wow, what we
Mm.
are doing is we are patterning, the future right now.
Mm.
So that's where, I feel like that, okay, I'm, like roll up my sleeves, I'm ready to go now. And I'm looking
Wonderful.
forward to like talking, not just talking about transformative change, but putting it into practice.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's always been your thing, and I'm really interested in seeing what's come of it in the recent years, and where do you see it going forward better?
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the probably the most exciting thing this year is that I'm going to be retiring from the university
Oh, wow.
in September, and not retiring from work, but actually just saying that like, okay, if I want to have the biggest impact, maybe it's, like, yeah, I need to actually live sustainably, because I've been working like, more or less like crazy for decades,
Mm. Mm.
because of like, yeah, because there's just been so much to do related to climate change and the
Yeah.
human and social dimensions of it. But then thinking like, okay, if we take this seriously, what do I need to do differently, and how can I live more sustainably, and focus more on writing,
Mm.
and including, like including not just writing academic texts,
Yes.
fiction, and the Substack
Mm.
newsletter, etc. And then I have an organization called Sea Change that we set up 10
Mm.
years ago, looking
Yeah.
at like conscious change, creative change, collaborative change, courageous change, and really like engaging with, like, okay, well, how do we, like transformation in a changing climate? What does it look like? How do we engage society with that, based
Mm.
on research, based on knowledge and everything? And so being that bridge, like I've always been like working in the university trying to go out, but now I really want to work from like, okay, let's put this, let us, like really, focus on working with organizations and
Mm-hmm.
individuals, and really trying to not just trying to, but just really, shifting the whole societal conversation. And so
Mm-hmm.
the psychologist Dan Siegel says, you're not going into retirement, you're going into preferment. You will do what you prefer. And that I think is like, so I'm just announcing my preferment.
Lovely. I love that. Preferment.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
very empowering. Like, yes,
Mm.
it's like,
Mm.
because I certainly do plan to be actively working with this
Yes.
for, yeah, because it is, we are just at such a critical moment right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think our generation, actually this phase in life when you retire and when in previous terms, then you're no longer useful, you're no longer contributing, but it's the opposite. Actually, I really feel that we have to become elders, that we're missing elders, we're missing
Mm,
wise older people who might not be physically so capable, but who have more wisdom and more patience, who act more slowly, acting more slowly. I'm
mm,
trying to learn that. And I think that's really what the world needs at the moment because it's
yeah,
been
I
accelerating, everything is exponentially growing and we can't go on like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been such a part of that too. And it's just,
Yeah.
like just and it's just like, whoa, this is, like it's been crazy. And
Mm.
like just and I see like the demands on ourselves and what were our
Yeah.
expectations. And I think that like to me it's very exciting to like hop off before like I have another 10 years that I could work at the university and things.
Mm. Mm.
And it just, I can do teaching, I can do the research still,
Mm.
I can
Mm.
engage, but just at a different pace.
Yes.
And I think what you said about, yeah, like that, like kind of growing into being the elder
Mm.
and actually practicing the wisdom rather than just like
Yeah.
talking about the need for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it'd be wonderful if you're still within the acting in the university, teaching, but you're not part of it. So you can actually have like a meta view of
Mhm.
of whole of academia, really,
Yeah,
in a
yeah, and I'll
way.
be emeritus, so like that will be great. But I think that also like a lot of the demands for like education, I think, are for people who do not have access to it, people who didn't get systems thinking or
Yeah.
ecology or any of this when they were studying 30, 40 years ago or
Mm-hmm.
something, but are in positions of power and can make
Mm-hmm.
decisions and things. So I think that more like the continuing education and outreach and
Mm-hmm.
getting people to be able to like recognize that they're in a discourse, that they have a
Mm-hmm.
worldview, and how those
Mm-hmm.
actually influence what they see, and to see that, yeah, every worldview has its filters and its blind spots. And how do we, how do we become aware and how do we connect with people who don't see the world the same way that we do? And,
Mm.
and then, okay, how can I show up and have, an effect without, like just yeah, like burning out in the process, because
That's right.
recognizing that there's, we're dealing with like power, politics, wealth, and
Mm-hmm.
concentration of wealth
Mm-hmm.
and interests and things, and so that it isn't going to be easy. And I think that's the part where we do need to slow down and say, take a breath and say, like, okay,
Mm.
this is, like, okay, this is where I'm going to intervene, and this is where
Mm.
I'm, like, focus on, rather than, being all over the place, which
Mm.
very guilty of.
Yeah, wonderful. I really like the idea of educating people in power who might not have been educated, who were educated maybe 20, 30 years ago. And now they're in a position of power and making decision based on actually obsolete information.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
and I think that like when I think that like just like our generation growing up, and it was like there was no understanding of like neuroplasticity, or
mm,
that we could like that your brain cells, or that you would
mm,
there was so much that was just like assumed and taken for granted. And geology has changed, every science has changed so much,
yes,
and that's why
yes,
I love like just reading the science news on quantum physics, because it's like it's
hmm,
always like oh my goodness, now we can entangle multiple particles. Oh my gosh, now quantum consciousness seems to be prove,
wow,
microtubules or things. There's all this stuff that like that everything that was like that people have said this is impossible. Then it was like, oh well, maybe it's possible. And I think
yeah,
that that's the beauty of science and research, is like to open up thinking rather than to shut it down. And I think we've like there can be a tendency to just look within the box that's already there, instead of actually
mm,
opening
mm,
our thinking. And so if a lot of people have been educated to think this is the way the world is, and without questioning it, then it's scary, but it's also killing us right now. And that's
mm,
just, it's not okay. Like
yeah,
whether, and it's not just the environment, it's how we, society, and we are
yeah, that's right.
displacing people. We're moving,
Hmm.
like the wars and the
Hmm.
conflicts and things. It's like,
Yeah, that's right.
it's, yeah. And then we have, into power that have, like given power to and it's just going like it's really
Mm.
like a growth moment for humanity to
It
actually
is.
say like, wait
It
a
is.
minute, can we actually like, do we need to be imperialist again? Do we need to be colonial again? Do we need to go like,
That's
do we
right.
need to go this way? And what
Yeah.
does it take to not? And then how do we switch, like how do we be part of that bigger movement?
Yeah. What you just said was amazing. Yeah. Do we need to be imperial? Do we need to be colonial again? And the
Mhm.
answer definitely is no. So then the question is, okay, so then what are we going to be, and how can we achieve more wholeness also in a
Mhm.
political sense, wholeness of rather than
Mhm.
separation and conflict and war.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then what role does integral have to play in a regressive moment,
I know,
where
I
we're going
know.
backwards when we should be going forwards? And is this like the contraction before the like the expand? I don't know. I think they're
Yeah,
really good questions, and that's why I really look forward to the conference too, is
yeah,
to hear what people are thinking and how do we go, because it really, there's just so much in that political sphere that really needs to change in order
yes.
for us to survive, in a
Yeah,
healthy
and
way.
and I feel on the political scene we really have to get out of this good versus bad. We are the right ones, they are wrong,
Mm.
uh, because that's what's caused this polarization is causing all the conflicts and not making it better. Because then it's just it doesn't matter whether Trump or Biden wins, or Harris.
Yeah, it's just
Uh,
it's just who's in power, and that's, yeah, and
who's
it
in
becomes
power,
then
and
the
it's more of the same.
Mhm.
But to actually see, okay, that side has something to bring or addresses a certain need within the population,
Mhm.
and the other side addresses another need. Ken Wilber wrote an interesting article that turned into a book, Trump and the Post-Truth World, which was, again, is almost 10 years ago. But I thought he addressed very important topics, and I somehow missed that being taken up within the integral movement. I
Mhm.
never really heard anybody take that up and to see if the postmodern era or the elite, the intellectual elite, has actually driven evolution against the wall, and that
Mhm.
voting for Trump in 2016 was actually a reset of evolution, saying, okay, this is not how we do postmodern. It
Uh-huh.
doesn't lead anywhere. So I'm really, since then, I've really been waiting for, um, yeah, for the integral theorists and practitioners to actually come up with solutions, come up with political viewpoints that are meta, that look at the
Mhm.
whole situation. And yeah, maybe now. I think this 2025 IEC, we also have Elke Fein with Integral Politics. She will be another keynote
Oh,
speaker. I know
super.
you know her because you've contributed to her book. So it'll be interesting. And we have Jamila Tressel, who I don't know yet personally, but she's a young student of Margaret Rasfeld, who's a German school teacher. She was in Laloux's book with
Okay.
her school, alternative school. So Jamila is just 24 years old, and she will speak on education.
Mhm.
What could be education in the future? What kind of education do we need? So I feel all of this, Elke speaking on politics, integral politics, and her book is fantastic. It's out in English now. I've read it in German. And you more the environmental, social change side, and Jamila more the education side. And I think this all knits together very beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think that, like with that theme of wholeness and, like, 'cause to take oneness as the starting point in whole, like how do we
Yeah.
actually like embody that oneness and practice it? And it is not easy to to not other others and to not like go
Mm.
into polarities and things. And so yeah, so that would be really hopefully, we'll
Mm.
have collective realizations and be able to move things forward, because there's it seems almost like there's a vacuum right now in
Hmm.
terms of, everyone's like like what do we do now?
Mm.
And I think it also because the US election is still quite fresh and it's happening so fast and it's like that it's still I don't think we've actually realized what happened yet.
No, we won't know.
Yeah, and it's yeah, that it goes into then like that where what type of knowledge do we need? What type of practices do we need? How do we move forward
Mm.
in the best way to, you
Yeah.
know, like to be able to take care of the whole.
Yes. 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 I love it, what you just said about there's a vacuum and where do we go now? So I would really love it if you could speak in your keynote, if you could speak to that vacuum, if you could speak not from I know already we have to do this and this, but from this not knowing, from this
Mm-hmm.
point of okay, there's something that we need, there's a vacuum, there's something that we need, and then maybe speak about whatever this something could be, you
Yeah.
know.
What is the saying? Is it like nature hates a vacuum or or
Uh-huh.
something like that? Because there's always someone that fills the vacuum with like, and then it tends to be like the,
Yeah.
you know,
A
people that
vacuum
are
acts as a pump, doesn't it? It acts
yeah, or
as
just like it
an
draws
attractor.
people and then it's yeah, and then it like sucks people in who and often the people who are jump into the to power then are the least um beneficial for the
Hmm.
whole. But yeah.
Interesting. Wow, that's
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. I don't know that much about biology, but or chemistry, I
Yeah.
suppose, comes into
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I just remember when like when Eastern Europe was going through these changes and there was nothing ready to take its place in
Mm,
there and the people would talk about that there was like a vacuum of like
that's
for there
right.
were no model when there's no model out there it's like
Mm-hmm.
then what do you do what
Mm,
is the new pattern that's going to be set in
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
society and I think that's where
Mm,
we yeah we need
mm,
to think about
yeah. So what is the vacuum? Yeah, I suppose it's
void if there's a void if there's just not
mm,
anything there and
yeah.
how do we like not fall into like because somebody will fill that void with fake news with like the opportunist will
Mm,
hop in and say I have the answer here's the answer it's geoengineering of the atmosphere and then
mm,
people will go oh that sounds really great and then we go, wait we just jumped over social change it's like we forgot
mm,
to actually like think about our redesigning our economy redesigning our
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you know cultures etc.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I feel we covered really a lot of ground already. So, and
Yeah.
I don't know if we can already extract some key words or whether we both think about it afterwards and communicate in writing. Sometimes that's easier. But I've taken some notes about
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking like, yeah, taking care of the whole and maybe something with the vacuum or something like how do we,
yeah, yeah.
but I think that that is our challenge now in a time of
Mm,
fragmentation and and kind of regression of how do we take care of the whole?
yeah.
And that, goes in with the finding wholeness is something like that's
Mm,
the first thing. And it is then like filling that there's, the, I guess, yeah, it would be like just the danger of not taking care of the whole right now because it's
mm.
like yeah
Yeah, or
yeah it's going
maybe
to be a challenge.
to put it the other way around, acting from the whole, we can only act from the whole if we see ourselves as the whole, as
Oh
part of the
yeah.
whole, and not a
Right.
fraction. You know.
Yeah. Maybe the talk would be like on fractals of change, or something,
Yes.
or yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Let's think about what a good theme
Fractals
will
of
be, and then I will
change.
just plan to go and just talk about it,
Yes,
and have
and
hopefully have a really good conversation. Yeah,
that's
I look
right.
forward
Yeah.
to all the
Yeah, what we can do is also what we did last time with some of the keynote speakers that we instead of them offering a workshop in the afternoon, we gave them one of the sections. We have this section format where we have some short presentations, 3 short presentations, and when we have 1 hour of facilitated dialogue. And the way we did it last time with Rob Keegan and Mariana Bozesan, but especially Rob Keegan worked really well, that he appeared, he just came there, sat on the edge of the stage, I think. And with just the 10th of those people who chose that topic over 9 others. And then they engaged in dialogue. They had circles of dialogue and brought back, so a conversation developed, a Q&A of a different kind where people talked to each other and then fed back the results to Rob. And I think that kind of that could work really well with your way of being with people. You know, we could do
and we
so
could talk about, you know, like what people care about deeply for the whole, you know,
that's right.
and then
Yeah.
get that list of like what are the values that are really like
Yeah.
driving that, you know, like, you know, compassion and justice and things like
Mm-hmm.
that apply to everyone and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds
so
super.
we can do that, and I'd love it actually. What we talked about you retiring this year. This year, is it this year? Yeah.
Yeah, this year.
So if you could, if you would feel happy about sharing that and sharing what that means to your also your contribution, what we talked about becoming elders and about decelerating and avoiding burnout, you know, different way of working, because I feel that's like the fractal element, individual fractal element of the change we need. We need to decelerate. We need to become more sustainable in the way we live and the way we
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that because it's also very scary, you know, to like give up
Yes.
the, you know, like, because I feel like I'm jumping off when I'm at the height of my career. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Isn't that
and I'm still,
beautiful?
you know, like, how am I going to navigate this without just keep doing the same thing without any income? And like, so
Mm.
yeah, so there's a lot of questions that I have and everything, but it's also very exciting to think like, okay, this is
Mm.
opening up some
Yeah,
ways.
yeah,
So
yeah. Because I really feel that's one vacuum that we need is actually wise older people who are not working for money, you know, who are not in a professional, but who are actually using their free time because they retired and they have a pension, even if it's
yeah,
less than they
yeah.
had before, and using their time wisely, with more time, with more patience. And I really feel that's one vacuum. We need models of older people who kept their good health, you know, who can still who've taken responsibility for their own health so that they
Mhm.
can actually still be active and be a model. So it'd be lovely if that could somehow
Yeah.
be part of it.
Yeah, because I'm hopefully going to be figuring it all out. As my husband's like, we cannot afford to be a one income family. Like, okay, what does this mean? How do I, you know, how do I move into that elderhood?
Mm,
Yeah, and how do living in integrity and for impact is, yeah, it'd be good to have a
mm,
group conversation about that. Open up for
Yeah.
ideas from people with experience too.
Yes, yes, yes. We could even have, yeah. Uh, I would love, actually, I will probably invite you and Bettina Wiechers, my friend, into another conversation about this topic, because she's an integral gerontologist, and she's just
Mm.
looking, and with specializing on dementia, and
Mm.
she's just had a kind of, I suppose you would call it a breakdown, but it was also a spiritual breakthrough. And
Mm.
she's now coming out of that and doing research on the similarity of dementia and spiritual awakening, because
Oh,
there are
wow.
similarities. I'll send you a link. She's done a presentation with Ubiquity University, Jim
Okay.
Garrison, and a
Okay, I
very,
get the
very
links for
interesting.
that. So that's
Yeah,
online then.
she did that in October, and she did another one, but the first one is really, really amazing. And I've
Okay.
just
I might have
recently,
seen the description because I read the descriptions. I know, you know, like it's just, so, and I remember there was a series on dementia. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
Yeah.
and she's really at the edge of research. She's really starting to, and she has the same problem that she's lost all her income. She's not ready to retire. She's 10 years old, younger than me, but she's actually not been able to work in her profession anymore during COVID, also for different
Mhm.
reasons. But she would really like to put her time, somehow get the funds for this research into
Mhm.
dementia and a different way of growing old, and also different way of caring for the elderly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's going to be a big topic, and yeah.
Very big topic, very big topic. Yeah, because there just aren't enough people to care for us in the way it has been done now.
Mm.
There's a big crisis on
Right.
that front as
And
well.
ironically, with so much anti-immigration in the world, like when you look at like our like the healthcare system in the
I
Norway and in the
know.
US and everything
Yeah,
like that, is
in
like
Germany too.
that. Yeah, yeah. It's just
They're all from
it's
Poland and
insane.
Russia.
Yeah, and the
Mm,
people, yeah, the ones who are we're expect like the caregivers are we're treating as yeah, it's crazy. So that goes into like the that our society not working well, and how do we actually find those
that's right.
solutions?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, well, this will be
That
fun.
would be
It'll be great. So,
another huge topic. Yeah. Let's
mhm,
see how much you want to cram into your
mhm,
talk. I suppose you better focus on what is your main topic.
mhm.
This
Yeah.
fractal social change
Yeah,
and all
fractals
that.
approaches to scaling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it'd be lovely if you could bring in the personal side that you're actually also finding wholeness,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I
reinventing
could start with
yourself.
that.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
that would be really lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, then I will do that. And
So wonderful.
yeah, and we could just have an exchange about titles then or something, or maybe if you sent
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
based on
you
what we've
can
talked
just
about or
write up
something. And
write up a blurb, and maybe I'll also analyze my notes and bring
Mhm.
out some things, and then we'll come up with a title. But I think,
Great.
yeah,
Okay,
wonderful.
well, yeah, well,
Thank you,
May's not that
Karen.
far away. So yeah, I look forward to meeting
Yes,
you in person and have a wonderful trip to Colombia. And
thank you.
yeah, I look
Thank
forward to
you.
hearing about your experience there. I was in Leticia
Yes.
for as part of this assessment, down on the like on the Amazon with Brazil, the
Mm.
border with Brazil and Peru, and it was just so yeah, it was really
Yeah, it's
cool.
amazing
So
what's
yeah, it's
happening
good.
there. I really feel that is also that they started, I don't know how many years ago, but I think not much more than 10 years ago, that the elders, the medicine was telling the elders to open up the medicine and share it with the world, because
Yeah, do you know Prajna Horn from she the
no.
I'm just forgetting the organism, but she works with like mamos from Colombia who have actually said we need to do this, and she works on like kind of it was like the coherence lab, and now it's Kualai in Hawaii. She's based in Hawaii, and they have full moon ceremonies with elders from around the world, led with Mamo Lorenzo in Colombia and people in Maori, all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
to really just say like if we have these coherent ceremonies, what can we, like what can we do? And so she's very
Mm-hmm.
interested in quantum social change. So wanting to like, well, how
Mm-hmm.
do we actually look at this from a social science perspective? Like what is the so I'm working with a collaborator at Oregon State
Mm.
University, and like looking at like, okay, how do like if there's this message that okay, the world is ready
Yeah.
for this other thing. How do we actually use ceremony as a way to bring people in and connect? So
Wow.
I'll
Mm.
send you the link to that.
Yes,
And
please. Yes, please. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think we are actually probably getting a Brazilian elder uh, as a keynote speaker, but that's not quite. I'm not quite clear what is actually how much he's in an indigenous tradition of medicine.
hmm,
But yeah,
yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
great.
There's a researcher at Arizona State University, David Manuel Navarrete, who is doing research in the Amazon, building
Mm,
canoes, like local solar canoes and things. And he's been doing work on like ayahuasca ceremonies and things. And
mm,
like has yeah, it's very interesting. And he's like we talked about integral years ago, and I think he's
Mm,
very much an integral person. So
mm.
he's
Yeah,
someone.
lovely. Any links you can send my way in these
Mhm,
regards would be wonderful.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, super. Great.
Yeah,
Then we'll
thank you,
stay in
Karen.
touch, and then we'll,
We're
yeah,
done.
and I'll see you
Mm-hmm.
in a few months.
Few months. Yes, thank you very much.